Thank you for watching this episode of Bacon and Eggs on YouTube.
Howdy, yokes, and welcome back to Bacon and Eggs. I'm Tyler Carlin.
And I'm Ethan Edgehill.
And today we're the heroes you deserve.
But not the ones you need right now.
So stop wearing hockey pads.
Why so serious?
Because today we're bringing you
The Dark Knight.
Right. The Dark Knight was released July 18th, 2008. That's 3,847 days ago for you counting, on a $185 million budget, which might seem like a lot, but it made $1.005 billion worldwide, which was the winner in the DC world until Dark Knight Rises took over, and then Aquaman just passed that. It got a 94 critic and audience rating on Rotten Tomatoes and 84 on Metacritic, and it is the number 3 film on IMDb's top 250.
That sounds correct.
Yes, those are all true. Now, today we are joined by none other than the foremost expert on comic books.
Oh no, don't say that.
From Nerdsync, Scott Niswander.
Hi, how's it going, everybody? I am the world's most experienced comic book expert. Ask me anything. Go for it. I can answer it without failure.
You've read every
No
issue
research
of
whatsoever.
every character.
That's right. I know I've memorized every panel that's ever been printed in every comic book.
Your weekly pull list is insane.
Yes, bring it on, nerds. I got you beat.
No, Scott,
Prepare for this video. I have to read 8,000 comic books. Excellent.
And that was just Batman.
That's right.
Scott is joining us. He's from Nerdsync. He is wonderful and hilarious and just an all-around wonderful human being. We're so excited to have him. Before we get on Scott's takes on anything, we want to hear from the professionals. Ethan, were you able to find a negative review on this film?
I was. Ryan Gilby of The New Statesman says, too much psychology and not enough pop. It's possible to be too serious, you know. And that's it. That's all I had to say. Yeah. Well, there was a longer review. I think his score was like a 1.5 out of 4.
1.5? Whoa, that is brutal. As far as positive reviews for this film go, I mean, just open Twitter on any given day.
That's accurate.
But the one that I want to pull out is from Marcianne Miller from Bold Life out of Hendersonville, North Carolina. They say, a film is only as good as its villain. By that standard, The Dark Knight achieves true greatness. Now, I actually do have small issue with what Marcianne says here. Not in that the Joker is a bad villain. The Joker is perfect in every way. But this movie is like 50% about the Joker and 50% about the triad of Gordon, Batman, Harvey.
Yes.
And I love Harvey Dent, but
Harvey Dent. Can we trust him?
Can we trust
Let's let that elephant out of the bag real quick. This movie gave us the full-on Christian Bale growl from Batman.
Sure did.
Having just watched The Batman Begins, having watched Batman Begins last week, it was such a stark comparison that I don't think I'd ever noticed before. Where, like, I was like, oh man, this is where it comes from. Not that movie, it's this movie. This is where people make the jokes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's so interesting to me because, like, I don't remember it being as... It's still very silly to me, and I don't remember it being as silly watching it for the first time. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. He's got the... Because I remember the big reason they casted Christian Bale as Batman was because he brought that voice thing to his audition, and they were like, oh, that's good. Like, he understands that there's a difference between the Bruce Wayne voice and the Batman voice. And I don't know. It's there are some lines that Batman says that are, like, really good lines, but because they're delivered by, like, this city is full of people ready to believe in good. It's just, I don't know. It's just kind of silly.
Well, I mean, but you got to think about the time when Batman Begins came out. Not Batman Begins. When The Dark Knight came out, which was 3,847 days ago. It's a long time ago. The world.
Oddly enough, 3,847 is my third favorite number.
Dude, same. Whoa, what are the odds?
It's the wildest thing in the world.
Man, you guys are crazy. My third favorite number is 17.
Get
That's
out
such
of
a
here.
weird
Get
favorite.
out of here. Ugh.
I guess even third favorite. That's weird.
Well, my first favorite number is 49,247.
That's a good one.
Much more
That's
than-
pretty
That's what
good.
I had on my football jersey.
Yeah, that was when I played Little League Baseball. I was number 49,247.
I was like,
But anyway, like the world had seen at this point 2 superhero movies that even came in the same ballpark, and the thing is, nobody saw Batman Begins. Like, hardly anybody saw it in theaters. They had potentially more seen it by the time this movie came out, but like I don't even remember if I had seen it. I think I just kind of went into this one cold.
I remember going into this one thinking it was the first.
Oh, interesting.
So like because when this came out in 2008, I was 15, but like Iron Man had just come out 2 months earlier, kicking off the MCU, which is like the only other superhero movie in existence at this time on this day in 2008 that I think could even be in the same ballpark other than Batman Begins. Like, because it's not going to be.
Disagree.
It's not Daredevil. It's not any of the Raimi Spider-Man movies. Like,
So that's where I disagree with you. I think that, like, to me, this was taking the Raimi Spider-Man films and making them not Spider-Man 3 so much, but Spider-Man 1 and 2, and making them that much better.
right, but
And
we had never seen anything
whole...
on that, like, on this level of like, wow, this is a superhero movie and a movie.
Yeah.
So I think it was a lot easier for people to forgive the ridiculous, I'm not wearing hockey pads.
Yeah, this movie to me feels... This is not by any stretch an original opinion that I'm gonna say, but like this movie feels to me like it's just a crime thriller that just so happens to have superhero elements into it. But like at its core, it's just a crime thriller that's like super fun and interesting, and it has a lot of cool themes that they explore.
And it definitely does. And to that fact is like you could almost take Batman out of it. I mean, you'd have to rewrite the movie, but like this could be a movie about Harvey Dent and Jim Gordon chasing down the Joker.
Yeah, it could.
With a little bit of help from the, residential eccentric multi-billionaire.
Of course, yeah. You need somebody to fund the operation. I will say, speaking of like the MCU, I was thrown off a little bit having that acronym like associated with the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
As was I.
And then throughout this movie, they refer to the Major Crimes Unit as the MCU constantly, and I'm like,
I know,
it's throwing me off.
Every time. We have to hold him at the MCU, and I'm like,
yeah, exactly. I'm like, what's happening?
That's
Tony
not your
Stark's got him
property.
downtown.
Yeah. Joker's at the MCU. Is he really? The crossover's happening?
Finally.
We could only dream that would
Can you
happen.
imagine Tom Holland's Spider-Man fighting Heath Ledger's Joker?
I could not imagine that,
Like-
but I would love to.
I mean,
It's just a totally different kind of hero that spawns the Joker.
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Well, I mean, they make that point 74,986 times in this movie. When Alfred, ever our present Greek chorus, to sit there and be like, "Now, Master Wayne, you really messed this one up. You spit on Gotham's criminals, and this is what happens."
Well, that's what. Okay, so I took a lot of notes for this movie, and I don't know when we just want to jump into it, but like
We're in.
perfect.
We've dived is the word
Divin
I was
is
looking
pretty
for.
good. I like
Divin.
Divin a lot.
Divin.
No, but that was something that I found interesting because I think one of the major themes of this movie is that Batman and Joker are two sides of the same coin, which is what makes the inclusion of Two-Face really interesting as well, because it just kind of fits that metaphor. But like,
Right.
so they talk. Joker says a lot that kind of idea of, you're just a freak like me or something like that. He's trying to say that Batman and him are the same. And so when Alfred delivers that whole speech about like the reason why Joker's around is because Batman squeezed and hammered the criminals so much that they turned to a person they didn't fully understand, that could easily reflect Gotham City in general, where the city was, driven so crazy by the criminals that they turned to Batman, a person that they don't fully understand. And I find
that is
really
absolutely
interesting.
true. And then they don't continue to not fully understand him during the movie and think that he's the problem.
Yes. I mean, it's so interesting to me. It's also the famous interrogation scene, I think, is really, really great because as Joker's delivering that whole line about like, you're just a freak like me, we're the same, it's in a room that is surrounded, it's covered in mirrors. So it's like, it's visually, it's telling the audience as well, like these two are the same.
It's covered in mirrors and black and white tile.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
it's so smart.
Yeah.
It's great. I have a lot of interesting things. Like I saw this movie with like a more critical eye this time around. And I think one of the things that stood out to me about that scene is how they shot Batman as this very still, very static, almost statuesque kind of thing, while the Joker Joker is like, his body language is all over the place, kind of waving around. And the camera focus on Batman is sharp. It's in focus. He's never not in focus. Whereas with the Joker, because he's moving around a lot, it's hard for like the person pulling focus to keep track of Heath Ledger's movements. And I always go into like analyzing a film just giving the benefit of the doubt that everything is intentional, even if it's not. I like to give the artist that kind of credit. So the fact that Joker is sometimes subtly out of focus in that whole thing is fun for two reasons. Number one, because they start that whole interrogation with Joker saying like, when you go for the head first, the victim gets all fuzzy. So it's like, visual kind of addition onto that.
Yeah.
But also the fact that his motivations, as soon as he comes into focus, he goes out of focus. And I think it's a visual interpretation of the character where it's like, what does he actually want? We think we know what he wants, but what does he want? He's always going all over the place. And yeah, I don't know. I give credit to that because I think that's just a clever bit of visual.
Well, yeah. And I mean,
and then one of the other things that I love is that even the writing, anytime the Joker goes on one of these monologues where you think he's going to really reveal his motivations, where he's like, I'm just a dog chasing a car, or something like that. But they've already set up earlier in the film that he's just going to lie to whoever he's talking to make
right, because he's got a different story for the scars every time.
Yeah, and even in that interrogation scene where he tells Batman, like, I don't want to kill you, what would I do without you? Meanwhile, his introduction was him saying, I'm gonna kill Batman. So it's what does he Batman. Yeah, it's like, what does he actually want? It's so unclear, and I think it's great. I think that's the way that he played him was flawless. It was incredible.
Oh my god, yeah, it was amazing.
And you gotta think that, just to touch on something you touched on with all the focusing and everything, you gotta think that like every move that Christopher Nolan makes in a Christopher Nolan movie is intentional. Because like I know a lot of times, and people were calling me on this in our Discord server when we talked about Batman Begins, that I'm giving too much credit to the director. And like I want to make it clear that Christopher Nolan has used 2 directors of photography forever for all of his movies. So like it's literally Chris and one guy and a camera. Like this is the closest thing. It's like written, directed, produced, by the same guy, and then one guy behind the camera. Essentially, like it is as close as we're going to get to an artist painting a picture in a movie.
Yeah.
It's like everything is intentional. And like a lot of that comes, and you can notice it because in every Christopher Nolan movie, I've been pointing this out for the last 3 weeks, there's that one shot that they pick in the movie that is like egregiously overused. We talked about in Interstellar, it's every time they stick the GoPro on the outside of a vehicle and just give us that little context shot. In Batman Begins, they keep just overlaying the bats over everything. And this one had we're going to do a slow circle at eye level around a group of people talking, and we're going to suddenly stop just past where we need to be, and then just hard cut back to where we're supposed to be to who's about to talk.
Yes, I noticed that too, and I was trying to think if there was some sort of thematic tie between all the scenes where that happened, but it was kind of hard to find one. I just thought, oh, it's kind of neat. Because,
I was looking for the exact same thing, and I don't think that exists. I think that's just like them being like, this would look really cool here as a storytelling device. And then they get back to editing and they're like, crap, we did that for every shot.
We did that all the time, didn't we? I will say one of the scenes they do that for is with Gordon and Dent and Batman on the roof, and they're talking about going to get Lau. And I never noticed this before, but this is such a subtle dialogue exchange that really adds a lot to Dent's character. Because throughout the film already, Dent has shown that he really dislikes Gordon's cops. He doesn't trust them. He thinks they're all corrupt. He said that like 3 times. He always points out, even in that scene, he talks about how he almost got Ramirez for racketeering or something, so he's constantly shoving in Gordon's face that like, your men are corrupt. And then Gordon points out in this scene, the fact that Lau escapes means that somebody in your office is corrupt. And Harvey doesn't say anything. He just changes the subject. Like there's a beat and he's just like,
right.
Whatever. What do you think, Batman? And I think that adds so much to his character as Harvey Two-Face. And I think that, because I don't think they ever explained why the cops called him that, but I think that's like a subtle clue is like, oh, well, clearly he only cares about these people over here.
And Harvey Dent has public image down to a science.
Yeah.
But clearly behind the scenes, the cops don't really like him. The rest of the DA's office, except Rachel, of course, doesn't really like him.
Yeah.
Even the mayor gets chews him out. He puts 500 people behind bars, and the mayor's like, why did you do that? This is not going to work the way you think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, the mayor, Richard from Lost.
Yes. What a beautiful casting decision on that part. I'll tell you one thing. We've talked about this a lot, and I'll say this movie reminds me a lot in terms of cinematography and storytelling of like Prisoner of Azkaban. Like there's the big argument with Prisoner of Azkaban.
You say
that
every I just want to point this out real quick. You say every movie that's in any way shot well at all, your first instinct on this show is to be like, well, this reminds me of Prisoner of Azkaban.
Well,
do you know why?
Because you're about to say the same thing about like, because you really just feel like the camera is a character.
No, that's actually not what I was going to say. It was more the camera being the character is what is not similar, but it is expert cinematography and storytelling made simple. So you've got like, you introduce Harvey Two-Face early on, and you've got you make it easy for the watcher, where you, like we were saying before, where the Joker tells the same story but differently over and over again, so that you can't trust his motives.
You've got that really obvious expositional moment of like, okay, Maggie Gyllenhaal is Rachel Dawes now.
Right. The actress has changed, which for me watching this for the first time, I was, not knowing it was a sequel.
Right.
Sure. Like,
and that's the thing, is you don't even notice it when you're watching the first time, but then you look back at it and you're like, okay, that was kind of like that would have been a weird scene if they didn't change the actress.
Right.
I love the grim foreshadowing line where Harvey asks Alfred, like, you've known Rachel her whole life, and he says, not yet. It's
I know.
Oh, like watching it the first time, you're just like, oh, that's a funny line. Watching it every time after you know what's going to happen is like, oh, boy.
Oh, gosh, she is going to die.
Yep. But I think that's one of the most brilliant moments of the film for me, is when Batman is going to rescue who he thinks is Rachel, but he finds Harvey there instead, because the way it's shot, the cinematography for that moment is brilliant. Batman busts down the door, and your eye instinctively goes to the middle of the frame, and there's nothing there. So it gives you a brief moment of, all right, cool, I think Batman has arrived on time, and then by the time your eye shifts to find that it's actually Harvey laying on the ground, you start to hear him yell no as well, and it's shot from the perspective of Batman. So it just, I don't know, there's just like this little beat of time where you're thinking everything's fine, and then you realize that it's Harvey, along with Batman realizing that it's Harvey, and it's just genuinely heartbreaking every single time.
Right. And
I know.
And then you get that moment where, Harvey's like, Jim, we could have saved Rachel if you just listen to me, and Jim's like, listen, Harvey, Fortnite. You, man. I'm the police commissioner. You're not going to tell me how to do my job, buddy.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, so Scott, we've consistently had a list, well, not a list, but we rank our villains in movies on a scale of the greatest villain ever being Heath Ledger's the Joker, and the worst villain ever being Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face, because Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face continues to flip the coin until he gets whatever he wants. And I had forgotten the detail of Harvey's coin getting burned.
Yeah.
And when I saw that he had the two-sided coin, I was like, oh no, this Harvey has the same problem. We've been selling a lie for like a year and a half now. There was a brief moment of panic where I was like, all Harvey Dents are like this. Tommy Lee Jones is actually the greatest villain ever.
No, he's not.
I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah.
No, he's not. But like Harvey starts in his whole like you make your own luck thing, and he goes to flip the coin the second time, and Batman grabs the coin. It's just like, give a chance to decide whether a man lives or dies.
Yeah, I love that whole bit. It's so fun to see Harvey unravel throughout the film. I think Aaron Eckhart needs to be in more things. Is he not in as many things as I would like him to be in?
He is not in as many things as you would like him to be in. Although if you would like to watch Aaron Eckhart give this exact performance, just minus the little end bit with all the murdering, you go watch Thank You for Smoking by Jason Reitman. Ooh. He plays Nick Naylor, who is a tobacco industry salesman and is literally the exact same character.
Fascinating.
Who just slowly unravels into a slightly different kind of madness the entire time.
Oh, that sounds fun.
I'll tell you this, maybe it's Aaron Eckhart's fault, maybe it's Maggie Gyllenhaal. I didn't feel any connection, any chemistry between those two characters whatsoever.
Yeah.
So when Two-Face goes on this murder spree over his beloved Rachel Dawes, to me it was like, oh, you really did care about her.
Oh, it's Maggie Gyllenhaal's fault. She's an awful actress.
Oh, you be nice to Maggie Gyllenhaal.
I'm sorry. Did you hear her delivery of that voiceover for the letter? I have this problem.
Yes?
I have this problem a lot with movies that do this. Like, someone is deceased or not present, and we're gonna read a letter by them in their voice. And Maggie Gyllenhaal's just like, Bruce, I never loved you the way I loved Harvey. I was never going to leave him for you. Sorry, bud. And it's just so flat and boring, and like I didn't feel any connection between her and Bruce at that point.
Oh, I know. I think Alfred definitely made the right choice of burning the crap out of that letter.
Yeah. I will say there are parts of this movie that really make, and I think it's intentional, that really make Bruce Wayne out to be like a huge scumbag. Because, like, the fact that he's trying to steal her away from Harvey Dent throughout all of his actions, like, it's very almost, it's kind of selfish. Like, you know, he could be Batman and continue, but he's like, actually, Harvey could kind of jump in front of the bullet here, and then I could get with Rachel in the end. That sounds pretty good to me. Like, I don't know, it's just not very...
I do like Rachel. Yeah, why does he go to save... I mean, I get why he goes to save Rachel. And, you know, it ends up being Harvey, but, like, wouldn't Batman save Harvey Dent?
Yeah.
Yeah, but Bruce Wayne wouldn't.
Right.
And
Is that what
congratulations. There's the message of this movie for you.
Yeah.
Is that, like, sometimes you just have to be Batman and not Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
His problem is that he always wants to be Batman. Although people give Christian Bale crap for his performance as Bruce Wayne. I just don't think we get enough Bruce Wayne time. Because every time he's Bruce, to me, I think he's great.
I think so too.
I cannot separate him from Patrick Bateman in American Psycho.
Oh yeah.
I am expecting it's especially in this movie. I think it's the hair, the way they do his hair, and he's got that big Christian Bale smile on his face a couple times. Where I'm like, this guy is about to whip out an axe and stick it through someone's face. Like, that's how Harvey becomes Two-Face.
Yeah, I mean, especially when he's doing his like fake party boy kind of shtick as well. Yeah, like the
I'm laughing because you're gonna give me money.
Oh, I believe in Harvey Dent.
Yes.
Yeah, good slogan, Harvey. Like that kind of stuff. His delivery.
But really, I believe in Harvey Dent.
He's Gotham's White Knight.
Yeah.
Scott Niswander.
That's my name.
Foremost expert on comic books.
That's correct. That's what it says on my Wikipedia page.
Does it really?
No, I don't have one.
Oh, not yet.
I was about to go edit the crap out of that and take a screenshot.
Let me tell you, this audience not big enough to make that happen either. But
yeah, we also do not have Wikipedia pages.
That sounds like a call to action.
I want to know from a comics perspective what this is. Assume I know nothing, because let me tell you what I know. Nothing.
Oh, okay. That's what I assumed.
Yes. Very good. But I didn't want you to make a Fortnite out of yourself.
I appreciate that.
I'm allowing you to assume I know nothing. Tell me sort of what this comes from, how it sticks to source material, how it improves upon source material, which I know in the comic world is like blasphemy to say that the movie could possibly have improved upon it. Maybe it is.
No.
And in what ways it does not improve? In what ways is it, was it better in its original medium?
Yeah, so this takes from a couple different stories and kind of meshes them together in really interesting ways. I think a lot of the Joker stuff, to me, seems to come from The Killing Joke, which is like a huge seminal comic book where the Joker kidnaps Commissioner Gordon and tries to corrupt him the same way that... Because he believes that he and Batman are the same. They're just two people who had one really bad day, and that turned them into the people they are. In Joker's eyes, he and Batman are both crazy, and he wants to prove that anybody can be crazy from just one really bad day. And that's kind of, instead of using Commissioner Gordon like they did in the comic, they used Harvey Dent here by trying to, Joker delivers that whole line about like, madness, as you know, is like gravity. All it takes is a little push. And so that's kind of a similar theme from that comic. A lot of Harvey's stuff, I think, comes from the comic Year One, which is a really interesting, it's very, it's early Batman, obviously, it's Year One, and it deals a lot with, like, the mob-related stuff, and there's a really, I think Harvey in that comic, it's been a while since I read it, so I could be confusing it with other stuff, but in this movie, our big introduction to Harvey is that court scene where he almost gets shot. In the comic, I think, instead of being shot, someone throws acid on his face, which is how he gets Two-Face. That's how that whole thing works.
That's how it's happened in several of the movies. Yes. I guess not several of the movies. That's how it happened in the other movie where he's in.
Yes, correct. And so I actually like the way that The Dark Knight did it better, because the acid in the face from just like a random mid-level or low-level thug is fine, but it's not as meaningful or as impactful as like it happening because of like that whole crazy scenario.
Yeah, because
with
Rachel
the
Dawes
Joker.
dies.
Exactly. And like it's meaningful. It means something. And I also like that they changed that. They still kept the essence of that scene where he's like attacked in a courtroom, but they changed it in this movie to show that he's awesome. Like, you know, like he almost gets killed, and he fights back, delivers some cool one-liners, and then like as they're about to usher the criminal off, he's like, "But I'm not done with him."
Yeah, I'm
And
not
he
done
gets, like, a
cross-examining
standing-
the man who just tried to kill me.
And then he gets like a standing ovation or whatever. So like I love that introduction to the character in this film. I think that's a big improvement for me.
Awesome. Now, building on that, unless Ethan, you have any questions.
I do not. I just have a random inserted factoid here. Scott, you may not have a Wikipedia page, but according to famousbirthdays.com, you're the 82nd, 1,200 or 978th most popular person.
That is my 4th favorite number.
Heck yeah.
And
I do know.
You're the number 15 most famous Virgo named Scott.
Fantastic. I love it.
And you met Mark Ruffalo.
That's correct.
That
There you go.
is what I learned about you from this. That you're from the United States, and that you once met Mark Ruffalo.
There has been other info on there I've seen before that's been incorrect. So I don't know if people have changed it or not.
Well,
Like
there is other
some
info, but it's stuff I'm not going to reveal about you. Even
there
if it is
was
true.
like stuff about like a number of siblings that I had. I was like, that's not true. I have many more siblings, but
Yeah,
it's
it
not
says
important.
It says you. I'm not going to leave this in here, but it says you have a sister named Haley and a brother.
Yes, I have 4 brothers and 2 sisters, but that's all good. I do know that I share a birthday with Billy Ray Cyrus, and Sean Connery was the one that I liked a lot.
There you
What
go.
birthday is that?
August 25th.
Oh my gosh. My heart almost stopped beating. My baby is due August 29th.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
There's a solid chance that your baby could have the same birthday as Billy Ray Cyrus.
But more importantly, Scott Niswander from Nerdsync.
Scott Niswander.
Much more famously, at least in the
That's right.
circles I'm in. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're behind that dude from the Pentatonics and the other Malloy brother from Ocean's 11 and a bunch of other people I've never heard of.
But anyway, Scott, following up on comics and characters and everything.
Yeah.
Now, my understanding is that Rachel Dawes was introduced for this trilogy.
I think so. I don't recognize her too much from the comics. In fact, hold on, let me take that back because I am a comic book expert. So let me say wholeheartedly, definitively, without doing any research other than the research that I do every day, all night, is that, yes, she was only created for this movie. And anyone who tells you otherwise is wrong because I'm the expert.
That's right. Well, this movie and Batman Begins.
Yes, correct.
So she has not been introduced in comics since then.
No.
Yes, definitely not.
I say confidently.
This is not a test. This is
Okay.
From your impression, is she sort of
Yeah.
based on any character? Does she like strike you as like a Selena Kyle or anything like that? I have no idea what I'm saying. So
Yeah, no, I get what you. I don't know. It's hard because it's odd to me that they would pick that character. Or that they would like create a character because Batman has other, love interests that could fit that role. I think Vicky
Don't they
Vale is
all
a
end
classic
up
one.
being like super villainesses though?
I don't think Vicky Vale does. She's just a reporter, but that might be too similar to like a
but
Lois
does she
Lane.
die
Yeah.
a hero?
Yeah. That's the question.
Does she die a hero or live long enough to see herself become the villain?
Oh, that's good. I think we should use that line in every trailer ever for a Dark Knight. Yeah. No, I don't know. I think I do like the character. I know they've done Vicky Vale in previous Batman movies, so maybe they just didn't want to retread. Well, they'd use the Joker and Two-Face for this. So what am I saying? I don't know.
Yeah, but they didn't use the Joker like that.
That's true.
Because this is awesome. This is like across cinema.
Yeah.
This is one of the greatest performances of all time.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
It was so good that, and like Michael Caine's been in a ton of stuff, but it's so good that Michael Caine forgot his lines that he was supposed to say when the Joker walks into Wayne Manor. That was the first time that Michael Caine had ever seen Heath Ledger in his life, and apparently he was
Yeah.
so terrified that he just forgot whatever he was supposed to say.
Yeah. I've heard that, and I don't know if that's been very, because I know there are other like rumors and stuff that I've personally debunked on my channel about this movie, but I haven't looked into that one. But that when you watch that scene where they go into that party through that lens, it's actually really interesting to see just how much Heath Ledger is just like genuinely going around the room being like, "Where's Harvey? Do you know who Harvey is? Have you heard of Harvey? What's doing?" And it just like stays on him for a little bit long as he wanders around. So I don't know, it just kind of makes sense that would be true.
I know. Yeah. What I love about that scene is that speaking of the mirroring of Bruce and the Joker, or Batman and the Joker, is that like they walk into the party with the exact same line, "Where's Harvey Dent?"
Oh yeah, that's good. I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're the same.
They sure are.
Yeah.
I got the impression from the filming of this movie that basically anytime Heath Ledger was in the room, they had the cameras on and on him just in case.
Because there was a scene at the end where they, like, not at the end, but when he's in the holding cell in the MCU where he's just clapping, which is like an iconic little GIF now, or GIF.
Yeah. I know, I say I know, but again, like I've heard that for some of the scenes where he's like doing the handheld like camcorder stuff and like torturing the little Batman victim guy, Brian, I think his name is Brian, you know, where he's doing that whole like, "Are you the real Batman?" No. Yeah, I heard for that they just gave him a camera and they were just like, "Just do whatever you want, man." And like,
I believe that is a confirmed thing. I think that Christian Bale has admitted that. Yeah, they basically just were like, "Here's a set and a Sony Handycam.
Yeah,
go nuts, buddy."
It's so good. It's so good. I love that. And you know, speaking of like again having Batman and Joker kind of be mirrored in a way, one of my favorite sequences from the film is the transport sequence where they're taking Joker to somewhere else and. Or no, they're taking Harvey in and Joker.
Yeah, and they go to Lower Fifth, and they're underground for like 6 miles.
Yeah. But I love that sequence for a couple reasons. Like, number one, there's only like 3 musical stings, but for the most part, it's completely absent of any music. It's just all the sound effects and the dialogue, and that makes it feel very tense. I mean, that's really cool.
There's a lot of parts of this movie that just borrow straight from like good horror movies.
Yeah.
That being one of those where like you know something bad's about to happen, but it's not in a way that like sort of gives it away. It's just like you see, because it's there's the silent, not silent, but there's just the scoreless scene of them driving by the burning fire truck. And you're just like, man, these guys are hosed.
Yep. Something's going down.
Something not good is going to happen.
But what I love is there were 2 special features about these like sound cues. So Joker's theme is like a series of notes that just keeps rising and rising and rising. And the Bat Pod, the engine, it never shifts gears. It just keeps rising and rising and rising. So the fact that that whole sequence is silent except for the Bat Pod's engine rising constantly, consistently, forever, indefinitely. And then when they get to the showdown between Joker in the street and Batman on the Bat Pod driving at him, Joker's score comes in along with the Bat Pod. So it's the 2 of them each have their own sound cue that's just continuously rising and rising and rising. And as they're about to, fight each other. And I don't know, it symbolizes that line that Joker even says at the end where he's like, "This is what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object." And like we saw what happened in the street. Joker was going to be the immovable object. He wasn't going anywhere. Batman, the unstoppable force. But instead, we saw who won that exchange. Batman was like, "Can't do it. Can't do it."
Well, that was because that's Joker's only goal, is to make Batman break his rule.
Yeah.
He lives on chaos. That's all he cares about.
Yeah. So good.
Right, yeah.
I just love that the audio of that scene is really cool. Also, I found it really interesting that like, I don't know if this was intentional. It feels, again, I like to give credit to the artist and say that everything is intentional. But like the fact that Batman destroys the tumbler by trying to save people from danger by like sacrificing the car, like, you know, using the car to jump in front of a rocket, and the fact that Bruce Wayne destroys a Lamborghini trying to save, you know, get in the way of someone about to, you know, crash into another car. It's just, I don't know, it's very similar that both Bruce Wayne and Batman destroyed their cars trying to save people. I thought that was neat.
Because Bruce Wayne is a great character that we just don't get enough of in this
That's
movie.
right. I actually love that exchange afterwards where he's like talking to Gordon. He's is like, oh, do you think I should go to the hospital? He's like,
Right.
You don't
Gordon's
watch a lot
like,
of
"You don't
news,
watch
do
the
you?"
news." No, but correct me if I'm wrong, he revealed at the end of the first movie, in not so many words, that Bruce Wayne is Batman to Gordon, right?
I don't remember that happening.
He says to Gordon at some point something about, it's as simple as putting a coat on a young boy's back.
Oh yeah, that's the third movie. Yeah, is that what you
is
said?
it?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
No,
that was...
I thought he did it in Batman Begins.
No, that was that was Dark Knight Rises, right before Batman is about to drive off and into the sunset and explode or whatever. I saw that movie once.
He survives.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have to watch it next week or later this week.
Yeah.
Listen next week as Bacon and Eggs discusses Dark Knight Rises with film professional Will Ashton from Cinemaholics.
Sequel hook.
Yeah, there it is. Put that little plug in there. Be sure to subscribe, hit the bell for notifications.
Get that bell on.
Oh my god. This is such a good freaking movie, man.
It's so good.
It's so good. Is there anything that has not aged well for you? There are elements that for me are not what they were when I first saw it.
I don't know. For me, I was trying to find stuff, but I even think a lot of the CGI was used really well.
I agree with that.
Like, you know, the fact that a lot of the effects were and like stunts were done practically, like they actually flipped cars and like exploded things. They blew up a whole building, like a real building.
And that's where that $180 million budget starts to sound so much more impressive.
Yeah.
When you think about it, like, man, they blew up a bunch of stuff.
They sure
blew up
did.
a hospital.
Yeah, which is incredible. Even like the helicopter. So during the transport sequence, they take down a helicopter, and that has to be CGI because they can't like tear a helicopter down from the sky.
Fly those.
but they do end the helicopter crash with a real burning. Like, so they do this thing that I love when movies do, which is they incorporate CGI with real world elements to trick your brain into thinking the whole thing was real. And I think they pulled that off really well there too. Even like Two-Face's CGI was, I think, still holds up pretty well. Like there were some moments where I was like, maybe that could have been better, but for the most part, I think they did. I think they nailed it with that.
My only thing, and I actually texted Tyler about this as I was watching it, but like in the scene where the Joker goes into Harvey's hospital room, and Harvey's just like, "Yep, this is a totally normal nurse," and then he takes off the surgical mask. He's like, "It's the Joker."
Yeah,
like
I don't think that's Harvey's reaction. I think when he takes the mask off, it's sort of like which also this is another fun, interesting thing. The Joker's mask only covers his mouth, and Batman's mask covers everything but his mouth. And the Joker's mouth is like what makes him the Joker, right? Yeah. That's how you reveal I'm Joker now.
That's right.
But I felt like it was sort of like when he took the mask off, it was sort of like, you're not one of the Joker's goons, you're the Joker. Because I think he knew, obviously, because the Joker had already started saying things to him that were like things a nurse wouldn't say.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just such a like visceral, like convulsive reaction that he has when he takes the mask off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've always felt that way about that moment too. Although I do like the headcanon that like, yeah, that because we've seen before that sometimes Joker will put the Joker makeup on people.
Yeah.
Poor Brian again. And then
poor guy.
But yeah, so I've never thought about it from that angle before, but I've always had that same reaction where it's like, did he not know that he was the Joker before? I think my favorite, like the whole film is great. But I still think my favorite sequence is like the opening sequence, the introduction to the Joker, the bank heist.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing.
So incredibly like tight and interesting and fun and funny in a lot of ways and like thrilling and I don't know. That's how you open a movie. That to me, you know, everything else because I couldn't find a lot that I think doesn't hold up, but the fact that when you start a movie that way, it's hard to not be immediately on board for the rest of it, you know?
Oh, I know. It's amazing.
You know, back to that budget thing for just a second. They also managed to kill one of the only 4 existing IMAX cameras in the world at that time during one of the car chase scenes.
Did they really?
Yeah. Yeah, listen. Literally, this IMDb trivia says, while filming the chase scene with the Joker and the SWAT vans, one of only 4 IMAX cameras in the world at that time was destroyed. Presumably, all 4 of which were rented for this movie. Like,
yeah, of course. Does it say how?
No, that's all it says. I'm imagining they crashed a car into it. Like,
yeah, that sounds right. Sounds about right.
Sadly, during a stunt in this movie, they did a stunt driver did die.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, Conway Wycliffe. It's dedicated to him as well as Heath Ledger.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was. They did kill one of the only IMAX cameras in the world. So they really just they went full bore with the production on this one.
Also, maybe I'm imagining this because when this movie first came out on DVD, because I watched it in theater. I watched this movie in theaters, and it was the only. I think it still remains the only movie where I've walked out of it thinking, I want to immediately watch this again. Like, I don't want to wait another day. I want to immediately, right after this, do it again. Which is a lot for a 2.5 hour movie.
It is a long movie. And this was the first movie where I ever felt like it was a long movie.
Yeah.
Where I was I was checking my watch and I was like, oh my God, this is taking forever.
Did you... Because there were several points of this movie where I thought it was going to end.
I thought it was over.
Then it kept going.
When the Joker dies, I was like, this movie is over, right?
Nope.
Yeah,
I think the moment for me was right after Rachel dies, and then we get a kind of a montage of Joker going throughout the city, and Harvey's in the hospital, and I'm like,
yeah, I was surely we've only got 5 or 10 minutes left. There's about to be a big final fight, and or they're gonna just cut to a sequel.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That they would just set it up for a sequel tease or something. All right, to be continued in the next installment of Batman. But they just kept going, and I mean, I'm glad they did because the rest of it was still a ton of fun. So sorry, all of that to say, it's been a really, really long time since I got the DVDs, and I went through the special features a lot back then. And I remember seeing that there were parts of the Tumblr chase sequences for the transport sequence or something that they shot in miniature. Not so a lot of it was shot with the IMAX cameras, but there were some parts of it that were shot in miniature. I could just be imagining that because it's literally been since I was in high school when I watched those, but I don't know. I have this memory of that being the case, which is interesting to me.
Huh? I'm checking the trivia to see if I can find that.
Yeah, I watched a lot of. I don't know if you checked out the special features for this, but they're incredible. They're so interesting. There was a 5-part series, a prequel series of the newscaster who gets kidnapped by the Joker.
Yeah,
and so they do a whole series of interviews with Commissioner Gordon, Harvey Dent, and all this other stuff, and to set up the movie. And it ends with the bank heist that starts the movie, which is neat.
Oh my God! Just to bring it back to IMAX cameras again.
Yeah.
The IMAX cameras they used for this movie took 5 days to render the negatives, which means there weren't dailies.
No, that's incredible.
How did they make this movie?
They must have had a lot of trust in the people operating.
Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, I guess, and like I said, this comes back down to Christopher Nolan. Literally, Wally Pfister was Christopher Nolan's cinematographer. He now has a different one. I think Wally retired or something. But he did all of Christopher Nolan's movies from Foundation to, I believe, Inception. And
wow.
So, there's some immense trust going on. And, I guess, you're working with such high caliber actors with Christian Bale and Heath Ledger obviously giving the performance of a lifetime. Michael Caine, guys like this. It's you just, at some point you do just kind of have to trust that the guy behind the camera, the guy directing the thing, and the guys in front of the camera all kind of have it nailed.
Yeah.
But 5 days!
5 days. That's incredible to me.
Oh my God.
And I think using those cameras was worth it. I think a lot of the visuals of this hold up so well, and it's so beautiful. This movie is, I think.
Also, apparently Matt Damon turned down the role of Harvey Dent, which thank God.
I wouldn't have liked that.
No, not at all.
I love Matt Damon. I think he's very fun, but I don't think he would have been able to deliver on the on what we needed from Harvey Dent in this movie.
Yeah, no, it just they're and obviously it's easy easy to say this about any movie that's like, oh, well, there's nobody else that could have done it. You can say that about any movie, but like, seriously, it would have just been so wild to have anybody else.
I know. And it's, I walked away from this movie loving, like, Joker's great. Heath Ledger's performance is amazing. But I walked away from this movie thinking, I just want more of Two-Face. I felt like he was set up so well, and he was such an interesting part of the movie. I want more. I was genuinely hoping that we would get more of him. Like, maybe they were going to reveal that he wasn't actually dead.
Right, yeah. That's what I was thinking, is like, that he didn't die.
Yeah.
He's the villain in the third one, but then they were like, nope, Bane.
New guy.
Can't have the same villain twice.
Stuff.
Why would they do that?
Although Scarecrow does make a comeback in here and in the third one as well, which is very fun. I love Scarecrow. I love Cillian Murphy as well as Scarecrow, and so like having him open this film was a very fun
Cillian Murphy is like they keep putting him in these movies as Scarecrow because he was the like first person to audition for the part of Batman, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And
he just doesn't look like Batman.
And he just doesn't look like Batman. And Christopher Nolan was like, we can't use you as Batman, but like I want to give you a villain. Like I want you to be a villain. I want you to be in my movies. And he just loved having Cillian Murphy on the set. That Cillian Murphy was like on the set for the filming of all three movies. The whole time, just kind of hanging out, giving some input.
I mean, that's the dream right there, right?
And like, what do they
Nolan's guy?
What do they really have to do to get Cillian Murphy ready to play a part as Jonathan Crane? Give him some glasses and a bag. Like,
yeah, that's basically it. I do love that he's like that through line through the series. Like he's the villain that pops up in every movie. I think that's such a fun idea. I would love to see that with more franchises where like a villain just continues to show up. Not even as like maybe they're a main villain once, but through the rest of it, they're just kind of there.
Well,
in
because
the world.
Right, like Loki.
He's just the
like Loki. Yeah,
he's the representation of Gotham's like kind of seedy underbelly. He's not the mob, but like.
Yeah. But what he does do is he communicates that like even when these supervillains don't have like a master plan that they're working on, they are still an annoyance to Batman. Like this is still something that's constantly going on.
Yeah,
right. We're just engaged in some low levels of crime at all times.
Right.
I love actually the comparison of Scarecrow to Loki because also Tom Hiddleston auditioned for the role of Thor and didn't get it. So it's like very similar.
Can you imagine Tom Hiddleston as Thor?
The audition tapes of him exist online, and it's like he's given it his all, but he is not Thor. Like visually, he's not Thor.
He's not Thor. You know, like Chris Hemsworth is Thor.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Chris Hemsworth is Thor in ways that.
Well, and a thing I love about this movie is that like at some point even the criminals don't want to claim Joker. Like Salvatore Maroni walks up to Jim Gordon and is like, "Hey, can you get rid of this guy for us, please?
Yeah.
We have opened a can of worms that we do not know how to close."
Yep. Which is, it's fun. I've seen people analyze this movie in different ways. There's a lot of people that try to claim that like what the Joker did was really good. And I think there are elements of what he did that were like, interesting to pick apart and be like, oh yeah, I guess that is ultimately good. I don't agree with his methods for sure, but the fact
that's like the Thanos did nothing wrong mentality.
Right, exactly.
Right? It's like,
I don't
except he killed half of everyone.
Right. I don't like fully engaging in that idea, but it is interesting to see that like that Joker, he went to the mob meeting and was like, I'm gonna kill the Batman. Revealed later, I'm not gonna kill you. And like so his idea was to go into the mob, steal half of their money and burn it and kill a lot of them in the process. And if you analyze the film in that regard, it's like, oh, I guess Joker was the good guy. But of course you have to erase all the parts where he like murders people.
Well, like I said, his only goal is to get Batman to break Batman's rules. He wants Batman to kill him. So like this is a no-lose situation for the Joker. Especially in that scene, the one you were talking about where Bruce Wayne or Batman can't run him over with the bike.
Yeah.
Where like and the Joker's literally standing there saying, "Hit me, hit me, hit me, hit me."
Yeah.
and you believe it because like that's a no lose situation. Either A, he gets to fight Batman, or B, he wins because Batman kills him.
Right. Like either way, win-win for the Joker, win-win for Mr. J.
Well, and the other cool thing about the Joker.
Oh, please don't
there's
say Mr. J.
Mr. J. Oh gosh, you big Batman the Animated Series fan?
Oh, of course.
You know, I honestly I don't know what I would have expected. So
that can only make me think about Jared Leto. Is the problem.
Well, I'm sorry.
My thing with Joker in this regard is Batman Begins sets us up with, Bruce Wayne can whoop anyone's Fortnite.
Yeah.
Like he can fight 10 dudes at once.
Yeah.
With the fury of a bat. There is not a single time where the Joker throws a punch at Batman.
In this movie?
In this movie.
He beats him up with a pipe a couple times, I think. And he kicks
He
him.
does, you're right, at the end he does beat him up with a pipe.
He also kicks him with the shoe knife at the
At the little party.
Yeah.
But I guess the point that I'm trying to make is he doesn't rival Batman in hand-to-hand combat. Anytime he does attack him, it's like cheating basically.
Yeah, he throws dogs and guards at him and then he gets a few hits in here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, I don't mind so much because I think that was the mentality of Christopher Nolan when he was trying to decide on the villains for each movie, is he wanted each one to feel different. So like you come from Ra's al Ghul, who is, a ninja and a super skilled fighter, and then you don't want to throw something very similar at Batman in the next movie, so you do someone who's a little bit more challenging Batman mentally and emotionally in interesting ways. And that's why he didn't want it, because there was a lot of fan feedback that people wanted the Riddler for the third Batman movie, and his response was like, why do we just want a watered down Joker? We just did the Joker already. Let's try to do something else. And that's why he was like, Bane, someone who can match Batman physically in strength.
Or overpower Batman physically.
Yeah, not even match, but go over it. Yeah, which I think is an interesting mentality to have. I try to keep that in mind when I pitch sequel ideas too, which is why I was really excited that not to get off topic, but like Spider-Man Far From Home had Mysterio, who's my favorite villain of all time, and I pitched that because I was like, yeah, it's totally different from the Vulture, and I just used that mindset of Chris Nolan.
Wait, who did you pitch this to?
Oh, just friends.
Oh, okay. I thought you were like, so I called Marvel and I said,
yeah, I have
you
a
considered
connect.
Jake Gyllenhaal?
Yeah. I got Kevin Feige on speed dial. I was like, hey man, hear me out. Mysterio,
it hasn't been done.
Yeah.
Fishbowl.
Yeah. What more? Should I say more? I don't think so.
Yeah. Who'd be great to play it? Jake Gyllenhaal.
And you know what? I believe in Jake Gyllenhaal in this role. I'm so excited.
We'll see.
I love it.
We'll see.
I'll let us get off topic here. Scott, give us some hype about Far From Home. Just whatever you want to say about it. Here's your floor. Here's your platform.
All right, cool. So I haven't seen the movie yet, so I can't say. But no, I love Mysterio.
Here's how it
anything.
ends.
Yes, let me spoil everything for you. I do have theories, but I won't go into it. But I love Mysterio more than anything. I don't know how they're gonna play Mysterio in this movie, but what I love about him is that instead of being like a big supervillain who wants to take over the world, he's just a guy who's he's just a failed actor who just wants attention, and he wants to show people that he can be taken seriously, and I think that's a really fun part of his character. And I hope they play it that way in this movie. I hope that he is just putting on a show and he wants to impress the public with his acting skills, and he doesn't actually care about saving people or anything like that. He just wants to put on a show and wants people to recognize him for that. Also, Mysterio, I was going to make a video about this at some point, but Mysterio is the reason I got into YouTube stuff, because he is a filmmaker. He's a special effects artist, and I thought that was really interesting. So I started looking into special effects and visual effects, and I started editing videos and making videos, and that led me down to the YouTube path, and it was all because I thought Mysterio was really cool, and now I'm here on this podcast, so thanks, Mysterio.
Thank you for taking the video element away.
Yeah. Yeah, now I'm here on this audio podcast. Thanks, Mysterio.
Right. So you have a Mysterio tattoo then?
Of course I do.
Wait, really?
I do not. I don't know. I want a tattoo at some point, but I don't know what. But I think you put that idea in my head. Maybe I do want a Mysterio tattoo. That'd be kind of neato.
There are worse tattoos to get than Spider-Man related tattoos.
I think you're right on that one.
I have 0 tattoos.
Yeah.
And I have no plans to change that. But Ethan has 5 tattoos
hang on.
and 0 Spider-Man tattoos.
What? How dare dare you?
Hang on.
right?
Let me. So I'm not super familiar with Mysterio.
Yes.
He's the guy that basically wears a fishbowl on his head, right?
Correct.
And you can't particularly see his face.
Yes.
Why in God's name did we reveal the actor playing him then?
Because movies, you need to get your money's worth. When you hire a person with a face, you gotta show the face.
I know, but like you don't need to get your money's worth. Like you're gonna get your money's worth. This movie is coming 2 months after Avengers Endgame. I haven't seen the trailer for this movie. Okay, for starters.
Okay. All right.
I refuse to watch the trailer for this movie because I'm angry about the trailer for this movie because I don't think the trailer for this movie should have been released until after Endgame happens.
Oh,
because it's just like if you Marvel can't hype your new Spider-Man movie enough in the time between Endgame and it coming out, you don't deserve to make it. Like you gotta play to the reveal a little bit. Like, because now we know things about Avengers Endgame.
That's true.
Maybe there is a chance that Far From Home takes place before Infinity War.
It would have to take place before the first Spider-Man movie.
Well, I remember Kevin Feige just outright saying it. Like, he was like, no, this takes place after Endgame.
Right.
So, like, no mystery there. But
they also were like, oh, it's definitely not called Endgame.
That's true. That is true. You know what? We can't trust them. They're liars.
But, like, give us some kind of reveal. Like, he's a villain without a face, pretty much. You could have just had him at some point just rip that helmet off, and you're like, oh my God, it's Jake Gyllenhaal. It's Donnie Fortnite. Darko.
I do think there will be other twists in this movie, though, because there are 3 elemental monsters, is what they're calling them in this movie, which is Sandman, Hydra Man, and Molten Man. And I do think, theory time, crazy fan speculation theory time, I think Mysterio is behind them all, and he's just, he's the one creating them and controlling them, and that's going to be the fun twist. Because
that's the whole Incredibles story, right?
Exactly. A lot of people are comparing it to that. I think that's probably where they're going to go with it. I know that there are some people who think that Mysterio is like genuinely just going to become like another mentor like Iron Man was to Spider-Man. And I would not like that if that was the case, because I like Mysterio as a fun villain who's tricking people into thinking he's a cool dude.
Well, hang on then. Do we not have a shot of Jake Gyllenhaal in the costume then?
No, we do.
We do? Okay, so why is everybody using these weird, like, just photos of, like headshots of Jake Gyllenhaal to advertise the fact that he is Mysterio?
I don't know.
I'm looking at a picture of him in costume.
Because every picture I've seen so far is just like Jake Gyllenhaal's playing Mysterio in Spider-Man Far From Home, and it's just like him in a blue sweater. Just
that is the costume. It's just a blue sweater. It's just and it says Mysterio on it. That's all.
That's right. Yeah, it's just got his name right across the front.
Mysterio.
You haven't seen the trailer. You don't know.
EST 1975.
Right.
New York.
And then a fish. That's all it is.
Oh, what?
Scott's audio on my end exploded.
Yeah, it did that to me too.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, there you were just like.
It's fine.
I was saying he wore a fishbowl occasionally with the blue sweater. That's all it is.
So he's just Mr. Freeze then.
Pretty much.
Now, is there a member of the Rogues Gallery of Batman you wish was in Batman Begins? Or not Batman Begins, Dark Knight.
In the Dark
Or
Knight.
the whole Dark Knight trilogy.
In the Dark Knight trilogy. So I do love the combination of Joker and Two-Face for the symbolism of like Joker being the two sides of the same coin. Ha ha ha. And like reflecting the duality of Batman and Joker, which is cool. And I like that theme a lot. I think this movie was very heavy and smart with its use of themes. Whereas I don't think Dark Knight Rises is very good with using Talia and Bane. They're fine, but like, I don't know.
Oh my God. I totally forgot that Talia al Ghul is in Dark Knight Rises.
It's such a cop-out character.
Oh, it is such a cop-out character. It was like, we killed Ra's al Ghul, so now we've got his daughter.
Yeah, which is great. I think she's a fun character in the comics, but like, I don't think the two of them thematically were used well together.
Can we just briefly talk about Ra's al Ghul for a second?
Yes, please.
Like, it is said that is his name in the movie, and people talking about the movie still feel the need to say Ra's al Ghul.
So it depends on what source you get your Ra's or Raz from. because there is, I believe, Batman Beyond, the cartoon, has a scene where they correct the use of, people say Roz, and then like Talia, I think, is the one who says, it's actually pronounced Raish. Common misconception.
And that's all well and good if I thought anybody saying it to me had watched Batman Beyond. Like, instead of Batman Begins. If we weren't literally talking about Batman Begins and they're like, that's Ra's al Ghul. And I'm like, actually, he just said it. Ken Watanabe just said it, and it's not.
I do think that ultimately, I mean, this is like rules for real life as well. When somebody tells you how to pronounce their name, you're not allowed to say, I don't think that's how you pronounce it. You know what I mean? So I agree with you there. I think if in the movie universe it's pronounced Ra's al Ghul, then like, and you're talking about that version of that character,
right? It's like they made this choice. It's like if they had gone with Batman.
Yeah.
Like, hi, my name is Bruce Batman.
Yeah. Then. Yeah, I would just say take the movie. Yeah, I don't know. It's a point of contention with a lot of things. I think I forgot
to bring it up last week, so I just wanted to say it this week.
Yes, I can say this as a nerd, and then I'll just take the heat for it if it gets a bad review or whatever. But like, I think there are a lot of like comic nerds out there who just want to prove that they're like smart or whatever, or like know more about the source material. So like that's that's a simple way for them to be like, actually, you know.
Right. It's a pissing contest.
Yeah.
Right, like that time that you corrected me that it's Baron Mordo.
Yeah, exactly like that time. I mean, he's not Baron Mordo yet.
Yeah, I'm Fortnite aware that it's not Baron Mordo yet.
But he will be.
Pedantic Fortnite.
I actually had a video recently where I kind of made fun of pedants about language. It was very fun. I intentionally used the word irregardless at the start of a video, and then I talked about it later on in the video because I was like, I said this at the start to bait people into leaving comments, and it did not fail. I got a ton of comments from people being like, irregardless isn't actually a word, and then they watched the rest of the video, and I'm like, yeah, I said this to bait comments, and they're like, well, never mind, you got me. It's very fun.
Irregardless, it worked, okay? So
yeah, exactly.
Man, if there's oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'd never heard of this word before, pedants. Like, I've heard of being pedantic.
It's the nounular form of
nounular.
Pedantic.
Good word.
You seem excessively concerned with minor details and rules here. I think nounular totally works.
I couldn't think of the word because it's not, I mean, pedantic is an adjective.
Yes.
But like, would pedant be a noun? It's still an adjective, though.
Pedant's a noun.
Yeah.
You are a pedant.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
It is described as a person who is excessively concerned with minor details and rules or with displaying academic learning. Which, by the way, sorry to say, comic scholars, I don't know that I would call that academic learning.
Oh, hard disagree.
Oh, now there were college courses offered in my college that were about comic books.
Yes, it's a growing field and it's very fun.
Like I took a class in college on fairy tales. My thought is that if you can read about it in a book, you can call it academic.
I mean, I sure hope so. That's what my whole channel's based around.
If there are if there are both books of it and books about it, yeah, that's academic. Because like you can read entire non-comic book books about comic books.
I've read more comic book books about comic books than comic books themselves.
Yeah, I'm quickly approaching that. My whole bookshelf is just books about comics and like history and psychology. I have friends who, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the the book series that are things like, you know, Batman and philosophy, Superman and philosophy, all these other characters in philosophy. But I have a friend who like writes and edits those books, and they're very fun and very cool. And I don't know, my whole channel is based around taking comic books and superheroes and telling people that they can learn about cool things from history and science and philosophy from it. So I hope they're academic. That's kind of been my whole brand approach.
Now, Scott, are you an author? Have you written a book?
I'm working on it. I'm really close.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because when I Googled you earlier, the second result to try to figure out if you did actually have a Wikipedia page that you weren't aware of, and then to find out celebrity birthdays. The first result is Scott Niswander.
Yes.
Niswander. Age, and the second is Scott Niswander book.
Yes. I mean, good plug, realoriginsbook.com.
Oh yeah, there's a website, The Real Origins of Superheroes.
That's correct. I'm writing a whole book about the history of the real world history of superheroes. Not the comic book. I'm not going to talk about like, you know, Bruce Wayne's parents were killed by the Joe Chill. I'm going to talk
so you're
about,
writing the history of magic for superheroes.
I think so. I don't know exactly what that is, but I'm going to take your word for it.
The History of Magic is a book that purports itself to be part of the Harry Potter universe and really is just a textbook about the origins of, like, air quote magic with, like, a Harry Potter jacket on.
Yeah, I would say that's kind of what it is. It would be, like, I just explore the... It's based on a series of videos that I do on my channel, which is called The Real Origins, and it's it's just all about the comic book creators and like what they were going through and what caused them to create the superheroes they did.
And that sounds absolutely fascinating, and I will absolutely not go into that expecting what I expected out of the Harry Potter History of Magic, which was a textbook about magic in the Harry Potter universe.
Oh no, that would be cool though.
Because J.K. Rowling has previously written textbooks within the Harry Potter universe. And I thought this was just another one because there's a book called A History of Magic in the Harry Potter universe, and it is not that. It is actually an entire book about an exhibit at the British Museum.
Interesting.
I'm not going to say I've never been more disappointed, but I've scarcely been more disappointed.
I wholeheartedly agree with that sentiment that J.K. Rowling needs to stop.
As people who associate with the Super Carlin brothers and with Seamus Gorman, I know that we're not allowed to say that, but JK, you gotta just...
It's time to stop, okay?
Put the laptop away.
Yeah, there are some questions that just don't need to be answered.
You get one more book. You get the Silmarillion, but it's about Harry Potter this time.
Yes.
That's the last book you can write.
Yes.
And I want that desperately.
Title. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the official title.
That's right.
Yes, I want that book, and I also want that to be the title.
Yes, correct. I didn't even bother watching the latest Fantastic Beasts. I heard it was so bad. I was like, I'm just going to skip it.
It was really not.
Oh,
yeah,
which I felt bad about.
It was
I
not
love the world. Yeah.
You can hear me totally ream it out on Cinemaholics podcast. And, oh gosh, it was not good. Scott, how's life?
It's pretty good. Thanks for asking. Nobody really asks me that. I'm a big fan of it. It's going well. How about you? How are you doing? What's going on?
Life is really good. We just announced the birth of the pregnancy of my wife.
Very exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you. I believe that is the first time I've said that on this podcast. So that's exciting. Mark it down. Let's see what else is going on. I don't know. Things are good. I follow you on the Instagram. Shout out Scott Niswander on Instagram.
Thank you.
Now I've been following this saga. Can I ask questions about it, or is it? Can I not?
You sure can. I don't know what it is.
Oh, you know exactly what saga I'm talking about.
What saga is it?
The Scott Conquers His Fears saga.
I don't know that saga.
Scott.
What?
There's been this whole thing where you've been falling in love over the past 2 months. Unless this is no longer a saga and I just hurt you. In which case, I'm sorry.
I do not think it is a saga any longer.
Oh, no. Oh, I feel so bad.
No, it's good. I think the best part about it was giving hope to other nerds out there. I think that was the best part about it. So I've kind of dropped it because I didn't really want to tell people that it was no longer happening because so many people got hope from it. But yeah. It's for anyone who's out there wondering, basically, is this making it in? Is this making it into the final edit? Should I continue?
Ethan's the one that edits it, so yeah.
Fantastic. Basically, it's just a simple little thing where there was just like there was like a girl that I had a crush on, and I asked her out after like years, and she said yes, and we went on a date, and it was great. I think just what happened was we found out we didn't actually have that much in common.
Right. Turns out she's not a nerd.
Yeah. I don't know. It's not even just that, because that even it doesn't matter to me. Like, I don't know, my mindset is I don't need people to have that much in common with me as long as we're both willing to like explore each other's common, or not even common interests, but you know, each other's interests, and be like, well, I'm interested in this, you're not, but you know, maybe we could do it and I'll show you why I like it, and like, you know, that seems fun to me. I feel like it just didn't work out. Like, I don't know, there wasn't a lot of back and forth there. Does that make sense? I don't know.
No, yeah, totally.
Yeah. But anyway, I I just wanted to, the best part about that whole experience, because I did talk about it on Instagram a lot, was inspiring other people who were like, this gives me hope, which I don't know, that sounds like an insult to me, like what if I analyze that too much, like, but you know,
if you can find someone,
yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Not...
No, but I think at the end of the day, if you know, other people out there, it's because I know a lot of my following is the younger nerdy crowd who might also be because I have anxiety and I'm very vocal about it, and I like to talk about it a lot and be like, hey, I'm dealing with this and I'm struggling with this, and just because I want people to know that, like, hey, we're all human and we all have our own issues, and I don't want you to feel alone in this world. So that's yeah, I think at the end of the day, if that whole saga inspired people, then I'm happy for it. I wish it worked out differently, but I'm happy regardless.
But you're okay now, right?
I'm what?
You're okay now, though.
Oh yeah, I'm fine. I'm just horribly crushed inside, and I'll never find anyone to love me. But other than that,
Scott, hey, don't think that way.
Oh wait, no.
No, Scott, I believe in you. I mean, you're a handsome dude, and you're smart and knowledgeable. You can carry on a conversation. I don't see why you should have any trouble finding love.
Yeah, you'd say that. No, I appreciate it. I feel like I've been trying to get more like, again, trying to inspire the people who follow me by trying to, you know, pay myself some compliments here and there. So like sometimes I'll just post a pic of myself and be like, wow, I'm super cute. And like I think it's just, I don't know, it just makes me feel confident, and I hope it inspires other people. I'm not trying to be arrogant or vain or anything like that, but I think it helps to just point out when, like, you know, to point out your own qualities
when you're
yourself.
Feeling good.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
Why can't we just all love ourselves? You know? That's what I say. Inspiration.
I'm with that.
This feels like it took a weird turn. Are people okay with this? Does this normally happen on the podcast?
Show basically, so the way the show works, and this is a little behind the scenes for the listener as well, is we structure about 50% film talk, and then 50% wherever the conversation goes. So the format of the show is we sit down and we start, you know, really in on these are what critics thought, and this is what we think, and you know, and that's all good, valuable conversation. But the idea of it is it's the conversation that a group of friends has after watching a film together. So you go to the movies, and then you go to the coffee shop, and you talk about, wow, I really liked how they did this with the Joker and that with the Joker. And then that kind of devolves into sort of the stories and conversations that come from experiencing art.
I love it. That's so good.
What did I just get into?
So I was going over the format of the show and the way that we create the art that we create by experiencing the art others create.
Yes. It was a very pretentious artistic conversation.
Also, to all of you people out there saying we never talk about the movie on this show, suck it.
Yeah, seriously.
Scott's really got complain?
We have one time. So if you go back, if you ever decide you want to listen to the show, there's no pressure to do such. But if you go back and listen to the Toy Story 2 episode, I think we basically like go through the stats on the movie, and then us and Seamus Gorman just talk about whatever for 2 hours.
Beautiful. I love it. Well, so I did listen to one episode of this, which was the Batman Begins one, just because I wanted to follow that. I wanted to see what it was going to be about and what I was getting myself into, and also I wanted to you know, continue on as like the sequel hook. I do have many strong words to say about the conversation of Aquaman that you guys had, because I wholeheartly disagree.
I still haven't seen it, so
I still have no idea what I said. So what do you disagree with?
Well, who was your guest? Forgive me.
Ryan George from Screen Rant.
Yes, I think he was talking about how he couldn't recommend the movie because he didn't think it was very good. I love Aquaman. He's my favorite superhero. And look, here's the thing. That movie has flaws. I can acknowledge them. But at the end of the day, I saw it twice, and I loved it, and I want to see it more. And it has a lot of great moments that made me smile and made me warm inside. And I did see the movie with a friend of mine who's a huge Aquaman nerd. Like, he's an Aquaman encyclopedia. And I watched it with him. And after the movie was over, I turned to him, and I could tell he didn't like it. But my first phrase was, you cannot stop me from liking this movie. And we had a big long conversation about all the things that he thought was wrong with it. But at the end of the day, I was like, I see the flaws, but I still had a good time. I had a good time with this movie. So I just wanted to throw that out there for anyone who listened to that episode and hasn't seen Aquaman, and they're like, well, maybe I shouldn't watch it. You should watch it. It's good. Is it flawless? No. Is it fun? Yes, I think so. So there you go. That's my 2 cents.
There you go. That's your 2 cents. Movie tickets way more than 2 cents. You're gonna really
That's
have to
true.
help them out on
Thankfully, I did. All right. Full disclosure, I didn't pay to see it. I had a couple. The 2 times I watched it were like, what are they called? Like influencer screenings or whatever, press screening. So
yeah,
full
whatever.
disclosure,
Yeah.
throw that out there.
I was
wined and dined. That's why I love it. They bought my influence.
Yeah, I mean, you also have a YouTube channel about media, specifically superhero media.
That's true.
You got paid to see it. Whether or not they paid you money to watch Aquaman, it's like you're getting paid to see Aquaman. Like,
well, I didn't make a video about it because I don't do reviews. So I didn't. It's weird. Aquaman's my favorite superhero, and I had years in preparation knowing that there was going to be an Aquaman movie. And you would think I would write down somewhere to do an Aquaman video in December of 2018 when the movie was coming out that I knew about years in advance. And I just didn't do anything.
Yeah, whatever. Aquaman. Yeah. Aquaman.
well, because an Aquaman video at that point was just gonna be noise anyway.
That's
because
true.
People and this is true about especially with these DCEU movies. People have their minds made up about them already.
Yeah.
I'm willing to be swayed. I have not seen Aquaman.
Yeah, but John Q, taxpayer, is not willing to be swayed by Aquaman. Your average film fan, it doesn't give a flying fart about Aquaman. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with loving Aquaman. I'm just saying that he's definitely not the big ticket hero.
You say that,
that's Spider-Man.
But Aquaman is breaking lots of box
Aquaman is
records.
breaking. He's got the DC record right now.
Yeah.
And Iron Man wasn't anybody in 2008.
I think that's why I like, and I want DC to move into that direction. And they tried with Suicide Squad, where they tried to take characters that people didn't really know a lot about and mold them into something cool, and they failed. But
that was too far. That was going Guardians, and they failed.
Well, and the thing is DC's figured out with Aquaman and before that with Wonder Woman, DC's figured out that Marvel's gonna do all the work for them. Marvel's gonna get your average human being excited to see another Superman movie. So all you have to do is make a movie that doesn't completely suck.
That's what frustrates me about a lot of the DC movies is I love Wonder Woman and I love Aquaman because both of those movies for the most part stand on their own. They're not a part, they're technically a part of a bigger franchise, but you don't have to read them as such. Whereas something like Suicide Squad is so clearly this is set in the DCEU. Here's Batman. Here's the Flash. It's I don't just give me a good movie with good characters. And I loved Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman was one of the only movies that I've cried during, and I loved it.
This is shocking.
Yeah.
Scott, you listen. Don't take this the wrong way. Mm-hmm. You strike me as a crier.
I am a crier, but hardly at only at a handful of movies, and they're not even.
I cry.
I
cry. Not during any sort of real life moments.
Yeah.
Nothing makes me cry in my real life.
Yeah,
I cry
same.
at freaking Geico commercials though.
Oh man.
If you could get me in 30 seconds, you got me good. There's not a movie out there that I've seen recently that was good. That didn't make me cry.
Yeah, I think so I can only think of 3 movies that have made me cry. I'm sure there's been more. Wonder Woman, like I said, was one of them. Before that was Treasure Planet, but don't ask me why. Because it's not even. I haven't seen that movie in ages, and I don't think it holds up. But the only other movie recently was Spider-Verse. Spider-Verse was the one where they had the Stan Lee cameos, and I was like, oh god, oh no, here it comes, and I cried. I let out many tears.
Yeah. I cry at movies all the time.
Mm-hmm.
People have been like, oh, are you gonna go see A Dog's Journey Home? And I'm like, no, I'm not going to. Why would I subject myself to that?
Why would I do that?
That's walking into a movie theater and being like, I would like to weep for the next hour and 45 minutes. Thank you.
I just want to watch a cute dog on screen.
Sorry, yes, can I get your largest water, please? I'm gonna dehydrate the crap out of myself.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think Toy Story 3, I was misty-eyed, but I didn't cry. But that was close. I was really close on that one. I can't remember any other movies.
Yeah, all the time.
Have you ever seen any other movies?
Only superhero.
I was gonna say, if you only watch superhero movies, that might make a little bit of sense.
Yeah.
Well, hold on, but you've seen Star Wars.
Is that who's in that one?
This is the truth. When I went to, I had an experience I did not expect. When I went to The Force Awakens in theaters, I remember being excited, but my brain was underestimating how excited my heart was.
Yeah.
And when the fanfare started at the beginning of Force Awakens, I sobbed.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, it's happening. There's new content.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever cried at a Star Wars movie. I've loved them.
Yeah, I haven't cried at a Star Wars movie.
I mean, like, I actually just made a controversial tweet the other day where I said that I loved The Last Jedi. And of course, you can't say that on the internet. People will eat you alive.
You are in a safe space for loving The Last Jedi.
Thank goodness.
I love The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Also, I love the way that you just said controversial tweet.
Yeah.
I feel like I should grab that soundbite and make it like a segment on the show.
Please do. I do demand royalties though, if that happens.
Hey, as soon as we start making them, we'll get them to you. As soon as we are paid per episode, we'll talk about that.
I just made a tweet about how much I like really loved The Last Jedi, and of course you can't say that on the internet because people will eat you alive, and they did. And there are some people who are like, I agree, but for the most part, the most vocal people are like, it's not even worthy of the word movie. It's just garbage. And,
it's just not true. It's just erroneous on all accounts.
Yeah, Dark Knight has a large unnecessary side quest in it, and it's still great.
Yeah. I hate the word unnecessary because it's like if it fits the theme of the movie, then I think it works. The first time I watched The Last Jedi, I was like, that was okay. But then it was after the second time I watched it, I was like, oh no, this is really good. I didn't realize how good this was. Yeah, they just play into the theme of like loss and progression really well, and everything that the heroes do, they think they're one step ahead or they think they're gonna get away, and they just don't. And it's heartbreaking and sad and beautiful, and I love it. And it's frustrating, but in a good way. It's challenge, and I think that's fun. This podcast was about The Last Jedi, right?
No, we already did that one.
Oh, okay. Sorry, my bad.
Actually, I did not do that one. But
oh yeah, I did that one without you. I forgot that.
Yeah, you and Ben Carlin.
Yeah.
That's my brother.
He no longer likes The Last Jedi.
Really?
Yeah, he's decided he hates The Last Jedi since...
Whoa, hates maybe a strong word.
Why?
I don't know. Because he gave up, man.
That's fair.
He gave in.
Well, hey, if that's not the theme of The Last Jedi, then I don't know what it is.
Wait a minute. I know this is totally unrelated, but I was scrolling through Twitter.
Yeah.
Rainn Wilson. Here's the tweet from DC Comics.
Hold on. Controversial tweets.
That's right.
Actor Rainn Wilson brings a whole new take on Lex Luthor to Reign of the Supermen. Here's what he had to say about bringing the iconic villain to life.
Yeah.
Is Rainn Wilson the new Lex Luthor?
Is Reign of the Superman going to be an animated one? I've heard a lot about that, but I haven't actually looked it up.
It is animated, yes.
Yeah.
I can see a cartoon drawing of Lex Luthor.
Cool. That's a fun story. It's very convoluted, but hopefully they'll adapt it in an interesting way. I will say this though: on the CW shows, they hired John Cryer to be Lex Luthor, which is very fun because he previously played Lenny Luthor in Superman 4: The Quest for Peace, and nobody remembers that movie except me because I'm making a video about it. And it's very fun to see him like go from one Luthor to another Luthor.
Wait, John Cryer, like the dude from 2.5 Men?
Correct.
This dude's a dork.
Yeah. Like, have you looked up the picture of him as Lex Luthor? He looks like the most unthreatening Lex Luthor ever.
Hold on. Oh, yeah, I'm not afraid of this guy at
all. He's the kind of guy that like makes you like his Lex. That one picture of him is like, I want you to be afraid of me, but it's like, oh, he's kind of cute though.
Oh, he's so sweet.
He's so adorable. Oh, he's a little mean.
I bet his roommate has all the girls.
Yeah, his roommate's inexplicably replaced at some point with Ashton Kutcher.
That's correct. It's fun though. I actually do like a lot of the CW shows will do that. They'll take actors from previous DC stuff and they'll repurpose them for different roles. Like I'm forgetting his name. It was Dean Cain who previously played Superman on like Lois and Clark, and he plays like Supergirl's Earth dad in that show. Or like John Wesley Shipp.
Brandon Root.
Yeah, John Wesley Shipp played Brandon Root, another great example. And John Wesley Shipp previously was the Flash on the old live action show, and now he's the Flash's dad. I think even like a Supergirl, I can't remember that actress's name, but plays like Supergirl's mom in the current stuff. So I don't know, they just like reusing those actors, and I think it's fun.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
I think
Mr. Flash is my father.
That's right.
I think those CW shows are such an interesting creation that like obviously when Arrow came out, if you watch Batman Begins and then Dark Knight, you're like, oh, I can definitely see exactly what they were going for with this.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is almost exactly the same.
Yeah.
But I've only seen the first 3 seasons of Arrow. I couldn't get
Yeah.
into Flash. I don't bother with Supergirl.
Yeah.
But I loved those first 3 seasons. There's good characters and good villains. Manu Bennett is like better as Deathstroke than anyone ever could be.
He's really good. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
gosh.
I haven't watched the shows in a couple years just because I don't have the time to do that.
Right, TV takes forever. They just said they finished filming, I think, the 150th episode of Arrow.
It's incredible.
I don't have 150 hours for you.
This is why I hate network TV. It's just too many episodes.
Yeah.
Straight up, like the new season of Game of Thrones is like 6 episodes. That's a perfect amount.
Yeah, that's good for me. Yeah, like Punisher dropped on Netflix recently, and I'm like, I liked the first season, but like, I don't know, I don't have the time to go back for another season. Like, it's fine.
12 hours of this.
Yeah, ooh. But like, something about the Arrow show, which I'm not gonna be the first person to point out this, but like, they just don't have many good Green Arrow villains. Like in the comics, he doesn't, and so for a couple seasons,
Because he's a B-list superhero.
Well, he has some interesting ones, but they don't treat them very seriously. So what they did in a couple seasons was they just keep doing Batman storylines, but instead of Batman, it's Green Arrow, and it's very
Right, where it's like
frustrating.
Oliver fights Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah. Yep. They do that whole storyline. I mean,
This is Talia al Ghul.
yeah, it's so like you could tell they just kind of gave up. They're like, I guess, and Green Arrow's Batman now. That's all it is. Oh, they're both rich guys.
We couldn't get the rights to Batman.
Yeah.
So.
He's too young on Gotham. That's that show. I forgot.
Oh gosh.
I mean, that's the other thing too. Is like because I'm the official comic book expert of everything of all time. People expect me to keep up with all the comic book shows because I know that there are people that do that. There are people like fans out there who can keep up with all the shows and read all the comics. But like, it's hard to do that and also like run a YouTube channel where I have to make videos constantly about other things and read lots of books and interviews and stuff like that. I don't know. It's just I can only devote so much time and energy into one thing, and I'm gonna do the thing that makes me money more than the thing that doesn't. So
right.
Yeah.
How dare you? You sell out.
I'm sorry. I want to live and survive.
And do things other than read comic books and watch comic book TV shows.
Exactly.
I would
you guys
like
are
to
paying
be
me.
a more well-rounded human being.
That's right. I don't know. It's hard. It's a hard life for a comic book nerd out here. You're expected to know everything. And if you don't, you're a fake fan.
Oh, you're definitely a fake fan if you don't know everything. Are you a Gryffindor? Gryffindors are fake fans.
I'm a Ravenclaw. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I could have put money on that.
Yeah.
So I had a follow-up question on the topic of being a comic book fan, because I feel like this is an almost inaccessible medium because there is, these people in the comic book world that exactly what you were just talking about. We've had this conversation with plenty of people where it's like, if you are not reading everything, you're a fake fan.
Oh, yeah.
And so how does one cope with that? I mean, say, I feel like I have earned my way into a little bit of reasonable comic conversation. I didn't think I did. And then one day I was having a conversation with Derek and I was like, oh, I know about this, and this, and this, and this. And I read all all of these things. And I had no idea that I had read as much as I had, because I feel like I've only read like maybe 40 issues of comics in my life.
Yeah.
But what are some tips and tricks to somebody to get into comics without this, that aren't the same tips and tricks people always get?
Well, so here's something that I feel like a lot of comic book, true fans or whatever don't understand, is that not a lot of people have the ability to like get into comic books. Like, for example, there are lots of people out there who are just in places that don't have comic book shops and can't get stuff delivered to them, or don't have online services and stuff like that. So being like, you need to read this is asking them to do the impossible. And also, sometimes they just don't have money. I didn't have money growing up, so what I did was I just read Wikipedia articles about the heroes I was interested in. I feel like that's a pretty good place to start. I don't know, there are lots of, nowadays there are tons of YouTube channels out there that like recap famous comic book storylines. So those are other good places to go. You can probably just look on YouTube for the exact story that you're searching for and find 4 or 5 people that have done dramatic readings of it. So you're all good there.
Wait, what's YouTube?
Yeah, so great question. No, but I think there's a lot of great resources out there for people. If you're looking for like a specific place to start, I don't really have any. I think it varies differently. My first question is always, what heroes are you interested in, or what kind of stories are you interested in? And it varies per person. I don't want to like go out there and be like, everyone needs to read The Killing Joke, everyone needs to read Watchmen, because I feel like there are lots of people who will find that boring. I think there are some people that will are much more interested in reading like fun, lighthearted comics. I certainly was as a kid. My first comic books were like Cartoon Network, like Ed, Edd and Eddy comic books.
Really?
Yeah, those were some of my first ones, and I loved them. And so I think it totally depends on the person. I wish I had a better answer to be like, everyone should start here, but like I don't. It's all individual preference.
But there's also sort of, and correct me if I'm wrong here, it's not like everyone should start here, but it's also not just go out and randomly buy a book and start there.
I don't think so. I think that's because like I remember my first time reading comic books. I like wanted to read like the big, Marvel events or something like that. And if I didn't have a grasp on the characters, so like when I went out and read like Infinity War, I was like, this is interesting, but I don't know who these characters are. Or it wasn't Infinity War, it was Infinity Gauntlet. But I was like, I don't know who these characters are. I don't so it was hard for me to.
What's Adam Warlock?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, what the heck is Adam Warlock? Like I knew Captain America and I knew Spider-Man, but like I didn't know. But even still, a lot of the adaptations were weird. Like hearing Hulk talk in full sentences was very strange to me. I didn't know who Doctor Strange was. But yeah, I don't know. It's
fake fan.
I know. So I don't know. You could probably, the best advice I could say is like find a character you're kind of interested in, Google best this character stories, and I'm sure there are lists out there on the internet for you.
I'm sure there are.
Yeah.
Well, it's wrap up time. Ethan, are you ready to wrap up? Well, no. Not in my America, no.
Okay, well let's at least bring it back to the movie first.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So Batman Begins, or Dark Knight.
Fake fan.
Fake fan, I know. It's like messing that up is super easy. I mean, barely an inconvenience. Mm-hmm.
That's gonna also be a new segment, just fake fan alert. I'm gonna get some air horns in here. Fake fan alert.
This guy's a Gryffindor. He probably doesn't even know what Ravenclaw is.
He probably thinks Ravenclaw's colors are blue and silver.
Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. Can we trust him?
Gryffindor.
Can we trust him?
Harvey Dent. I used to do this is a fun little fact about Dark Knight. Dark Knight was really big. Dark Knight Rises came out in 2012, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So in 2011, 2012 is when all of the like Batman college humor videos were coming out where they were like making fun of the voice, and I worked at a summer camp and I played Batman, and my joke was that I would come out and just be like, hello everyone, and I would just say a bunch of things and they would be completely nonsensical, and the whole joke was that like the camp director would translate what I was saying into the daily announcements.
Yes.
And that was a really funny joke there. So I would get out there and I'd be like, where's Rachel? And he'd be like, oh, absolutely, Batman. What Batman's saying, guys, if you don't understand, is everybody lights out by 11 p.m.
The Batman translator. That's pretty good. Can I leave you and your audience with one by debunking a piece of trivia from this movie?
Yeah.
The Dark Knight.
Debunk away or bunk away, whatever the heck the
verb
is.
But not that I mean to keep promoting the videos that I make, but I made a video.
Oh my God, you are here to promote your. This is a walking billboard for Nerdsync.
Fantastic. So a video I made a year or two ago involved this one piece of trivia about this movie that I kept hearing being repeated over and over again, and it's just not true. And I was so frustrated with people saying it that I made a video debunking it. But so there's that scene where they blow up the hospital and Joker's walking away, and like there's kind of that beat where the explosions don't go off, and he looks behind him and like he's kind of like waving his arms, and then the explosions start to go off again and he gets in the bus. And there's like a whole myth, I don't know if you guys have heard this, where people say that was like an accident. They only had one shot to do it, and there was something wrong with the triggering mechanism, and Heath Ledger just ad-libbed or improvised that whole thing and in character and saved that scene until the explosions actually went off. Have you heard that before?
I'm pretty sure I made that up. Like, I
theory.
think I was the genesis of that rumor.
Oh man, incredible. Well,
Scott has spent his life searching for you.
how dare you? First of all,
No,
because
I'm sure what actually happened is I heard that somewhere and then
yes,
just like compartmentalized it, then passed it along as my own BS story to somebody.
Oh sure. So that, I mean, I've seen it posted around so much, and I just got really frustrated with people doing it. So I made a video about it because there's a first of all, it's not true. It's a great story and it's a great like testament to Heath Ledger's acting, but I don't want the testament to his acting to be a false one. I think I want to. You know, there's so many other great moments of him acting in this movie. Let's give him credit for that and not pretend like that he improved this whole bit. There are special features, behind the scenes features, where they show that was always meant to be. Like they did a cinematic with like a very simple little CGI Joker, and that was always meant to, that little beat where the explosions don't go off and he turns around. It was actually a safety thing. They needed to get Heath away, like far enough away from the building, because it was a real building coming down, that they couldn't have all of the explosions go off until he was far enough away. So that was always built in, so I'm sorry for ruining that bit of trivia for everybody. However, I will give you a bonus piece of trivia to make up for it, which is the fact that the top windows of the building are all CGI because the night before they were going to film that scene, somebody, for some unknown reason, stole the windows from that building.
What?
Yes, nobody knows who or why, but the top row of windows on the hospital they exploded had to be CGI'd in because they were stolen the night before for some reason. So I think that's an even more fun piece of trivia.
Greatest
So you're welcome.
heist ever.
Yeah, right?
Stole hospital windows.
Exactly. See, I'm not just here to debunk it, to debunk trivia. I'm here to supplement trivia as well.
Right.
So
He's here to
it's
bunk
an
it.
even
Right.
trade. It's an even trade, yeah.
Yeah, I would say that other amazing story being debunked
Yeah.
very much equal to
You know,
stolen windows.
yeah. It's on the same level, I think.
Right. For sure.
Well,
for
I
sure.
mean, I get where it comes from, though, because Heath Ledger, with everything that happened with him related to this movie, it's like there were always going to be stories that floated around that, like, Heath Ledger literally died on the set, all that crap.
Yeah.
And it
But he's
just
made another movie after this.
what? No, he didn't.
Yes, he did.
There was one movie that he was like directing or something like that, right?
No,
Or-
he starred in the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus.
Yeah, I thought he was directing.
Came out in
that.
2009.
I didn't know he starred in that one.
That was
I didn't
made
watch it.
before this, though.
It was?
Yes. He died January 28th, or 20-something, 2008, the year this movie came out.
He died while this was being filmed. I was just reading about
Yeah.
this Dr. Parnassus. He died while it was being filmed, and they came back to filming a month later, and Jude Law, Colin Farrell, and Johnny Depp became who Heath Ledger would have become when he traveled between different worlds.
Oh yeah.
I've never even heard of this movie.
Yeah, I mean, you'd definitely have to watch it for that to make sense.
Yeah.
But that is what happens, and what happened.
But is it more interesting than stolen windows? I'm
I
gonna
don't know
say
if it is.
no.
I mean, that's a controversial tweet for sure. But
Vote now.
right. Vote now on Instagram. So now it is time to wrap up.
Okay.
Right,
yes,
Ethan?
I guess so. Yeah.
We're at an hour 50.
Well, we were at an hour 40, and you said it was time to wrap up.
Now we're at an hour 50. It takes a little while to do this process. So, Scott, we do this segment on our show where we compare the film to a breakfast food.
Yes.
So I'll let you be thinking about that. Oh, you know about this?
Yeah, I listened to the previous episode. I came prepared.
Oh, you've got something already picked out.
I sure do.
Okay, well, I'm not going to let you. I was going to give you time to think about it while we when we talked about the villain from this movie. Now, on a scale from like Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face to Heath Ledger's Joker.
This really falls at a Heath Ledger's Joker.
I feel like it's a pretty good Heath Ledger's Joker.
I feel like, yeah, I mean, about as close to Heath Ledger's Joker as you're ever going to get.
Yeah, as you could possibly imagine.
Right.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good. I very much enjoyed it. We don't usually rank heroes, but I'm curious, how does Christian Bale's Batman score up against other cinematic heroes to you?
That's a good one. Because to me, Joker seems to be more of the protagonist, not the protagonist, but like the main focal point of this movie. Batman's just kind of there. Like he doesn't.
He just kind of is happening to it.
Yeah, Batman just exists in the chaos that Joker is creating, in my opinion. So I don't know. He strikes me as, I hate to say it, but he kind of feels maybe like a couple steps above Ben Affleck's like Daredevil or something like that. Like,
oh, come on, don't be that.
I'm sorry, but like that's all right. How about this then? He feels, I don't know. You know what? I stand by it. That's what I said the first time.
Gosh.
I'm locking it in. Final answer.
Golly, I will say.
Hold on. Do you love Ben Affleck's Daredevil?
No, but what I mean by that is I just don't find, because like, all right, Batman's pretty good in this, but I don't think I think the part of this movie that people remember is not the Batman parts. It's everything else. Like,
right.
Yeah. So I don't know. Batman just kind of.
I will say where the story sort of falls short for me. This is agreeing with you, Scott. Is there's like this implied chemistry between Bruce and all these other characters that just isn't there. I think him and Fox work well together, but like they talk a lot about the trio of like Gordon.
Yeah, I'll say this:
Dent and Batman.
Yeah,
and it just doesn't feel like it's really there to me.
All
like
right.
It feels like it's there because they're telling me it is.
I have a better comparison then. I'm gonna compare the Batman in this movie to Thor from Thor: The Dark World.
I knew that's what you were going to say.
Yeah. I feel like that's probably a better comparison because, again, like there's this implied chemistry between like Thor and Natalie Portman's character, Jane Foster. I knew it. I'm a real fan.
Yeah, wow. That's like a real comic thing.
Right. Thank you so much.
It's not Rachel Dawes or anything.
But yeah, so and I feel like again, like Thor isn't super memorable in that movie.
Right.
And
Loki's got some great scenes.
Loki's got some pretty good. And then, but yeah, and then I feel like it's very similar. That's probably a more fair comparison. I'm sorry to everyone I angered when I compared him to Daredevil.
That was brutal.
I'm so
you
sorry.
don't need to apologize. That we don't believe in apologizing here at Bacon and Eggs.
That's right.
There are some times we need you to apologize.
So Scott, it sounds like you've got a breakfast food all picked out.
I sure do.
I'm very curious.
I didn't really think too much about it. It was the first thing that came to my head, and I was like, "Let's go with it. Let's run with it." I'm gonna say this is cold pizza because it's Batman Begins was the hot, fresh, ready to serve, like you got it delivered, and it's like, oh, this is new, this is different, this is interesting, exciting, and then Dark Knight is more of that, but arguably better. I like cold pizza better than fresh pizza, so I would say
I love that explanation. I love
thank
that.
you.
I like how you were like, it is arguably better. There are people who will disagree.
Yes.
But
look, I understand when I'm making a contentious statement. All right, The Last Jedi was a good movie, but
right.
and of course Dark Knight is cold pizza. So that was as far as I got in my explanation. I was like, it's probably good enough.
So
that is definitely good enough.
The real question is this the best superhero movie ever made?
What are you competing with right now, Scott?
I'm just trying to think of all of them.
I mean, what comes to mind for me?
Is it better than Halle Berry's Catwoman?
Yes.
Good question.
Yes.
I think what comes to mind, really the MCU is the only thing that has anything that will compete. And you can talk about, in the superhero film genre, I think you can talk about Iron Man, Black Panther, Infinity War, maybe Homecoming.
I will say, I mean, my favorite
Guardians 1.
My favorite MCU movie is Winter Soldier, and I think it's really close for me between the two of them. But I do think The Dark Knight is a little bit better than Winter Soldier, simply because I think it explores its themes better and it has more interesting visual elements and audio elements that kind of lend itself to, good artistic filmmaking. Whereas Winter Soldier is fun and I love it, and it's a good spy thriller that it's very similar to this movie, where like this movie is a crime drama that just so happens to have superheroes. Winter Soldier to me,
here we go with the Winter Soldier, the 1970s spy movie. Here we go again. Let's smash that button one more time.
That's what I'm saying, and it's true, and it just so happens to have superheroes in it, and I love it, and it's my favorite movie of the MCU. And but it's really close, and I'm probably gonna have to give it to The Dark Knight on that one.
I think. Well, I mean, The Dark Knight is the best movie that has superheroes in it.
Yeah.
In my opinion, by a wide margin. And I did not.
Okay, glad we're all on the same page here. Before you start saying some Fortnite about Tom Raimi's Spider-Man, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movies.
No. That was a mistype. Those who saw in my. Time for a controversial tweet.
Say the thing, Scott.
Controversial tweet.
I tweeted the other day that there were a few contenders for best superhero film, and basically what I meant was there are a few contenders for best superhero film in second place.
Oh yeah.
I think The Dark Knight very strongly holds it. I think, and then I talked about three of the Spider-Man films: Spider-Verse, Spider-Man 2, and Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, Spider-Verse. Sorry, no, Spider-Verse is better than Dark Knight. I'm sorry, that's my opinion.
I actually don't agree with that. I saw Spider-Verse. I loved it. Spider-Man is my favorite hero.
Yeah.
But I loved the movie. I thought it was really wonderful and amazing and new. Ethan has not seen it. The animation gives him a headache. We're not going to bug him for it.
It's not a headache.
It makes him feel sick. Whatever.
I know, but you just keep writing it off, and then people keep writing it off in front of me and being like, well, you're just a pussy. Go watch Spider-Verse.
To be fair.
Makes him feel sick.
They're right.
Anyway, I have not seen Spider-Verse, but there's no chance that a freaking animated movie about a spider pig is better than this.
Hard disagree.
Spider-Ham. It is not. I did not think it was better than Dark Knight. I thought maybe would have said that walking out of the theater, but after revisiting Dark Knight,
that's the real thing though. Is like people are so hot on these recent superhero movies, they need to go watch The Dark Knight again and just think about what you just said. Not you necessarily, Scott, but like your average fan.
I just did watch The Dark Knight again.
No. I'm talking about your average fan that is like, Avengers: Infinity War is the greatest superhero movie ever made. No one can change my mind. I haven't seen The Dark Knight in 10 years.
Right. And, that's when Dark Knight really shines, is when you watch it again.
Think about what you just said, human being that isn't Scott.
Well, I will say that a big part of why I think Dark Knight still holds up is because of the visuals. Like, I think a lot of the Marvel stuff is super CGI heavy, and I don't think that's going to age as well as people think. But this movie is really good. However, for a fully animated movie, like, for example, Spider-Verse, it's the visuals are incredible, and I want every single frame of that movie as a wallpaper, please. Thank you very much.
So speaking of visuals aging well, we have a big board of all films we've ever reviewed. Now, at the top of that board, which is I think the only place we need to have this conversation, stands Jurassic Park. Now, if you want to talk about well-aged visuals, Jurassic Park aged extremely well. There's only like 15 movies for 2019 so far, so we start it for every year, so there's not a ton of options. Is The Dark Knight better than Jurassic Park?
No.
Really?
Yep.
Do tell.
Here's the thing about Jurassic Park. Number one, it has my favorite movie score of all time, period.
Same.
Same. I think its themes are more interesting to me. Plus, it has dinosaurs, which are really cool. But
Batman has a dinosaur in his cave. I learned that from
that's true.
Thumbnails.
Yeah, Batman does have, but he doesn't have it in Dark Knight, so loses points. But No, I love Jurassic Park was one of the first movies that I loved, and I haven't revisited it in many years, but again, the theme is incredible. It's the best movie score of all time, and I think the themes of that movie are continue to grow more and more interesting to me as I get older, because as a kid I'm just like, ooh, fun dinosaurs, but as an adult I'm like, oh, this is a critique of capitalism, interesting. So for that reason, for the fact that I can continue to go revisit it, and it can either be a fun dinosaur movie or like a serious critique of
I don't know though. That's the thing though, is these movies are remarkably comparable in the theme of man is his own worst enemy.
Yeah.
Because the Joker is a direct result of Batman being Batman, and the dinosaurs going absolutely mental and destroying everything are a direct result of John Hammond re-engineering dinosaurs.
Yeah, but for different reasons though, right? Because he's doing it to make money because he's a businessman, and it's kind of I don't want to get super political here because I know people hate it when I do that, but like it's very similar to like the housing market where people were like, the investors of of Jurassic Park were like, oh, it's a risky bet, but I'm going to put all my money into it, and then of course everything goes crazy because why would you invest in dinosaurs? It's just a bubble that's going to burst and kill you. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of interesting themes in that movie. So broad theme, yes, similar. But when you get to the nitty gritty, I think Jurassic Park is just more interesting to me in how it tackles I think it's more, maybe it's just because it's more blatant and more blunt about what it's trying to say. And it doesn't pull any punches. I don't know. I just love it. I love Jurassic Park.
Ethan, what do you say? Long live the king, or the Dark Knight Rises?
Ooh.
Well, I'm not going to say that the greatest superhero movie of all time or the greatest movie of all time is The Dark Knight Rises.
No, I was rising.
I do think I am. I do want to go with The Dark Knight. I think that yes, Jurassic Park is an incredibly well shot movie, but I think and well, visual effect and everything movie, but I think that there's just something extra from the sort of camera as a character side, so from the sort of cinematography side of this movie that you just don't get with a movie with like Jurassic Park.
That's fair. I see that. I will concede that point for sure.
So I mean that would be my vote, but like I just want to reiterate how blessed we are to be able to have a conversation like this. That both of those
to
movies
live in a world
have been
both Jurassic Park and The Dark Knight.
Yeah,
we live in a world where both of those movies were made.
Yes.
I would say, Scott, I apologize to do this to you as our guest. I'm going to side with Ethan.
Oh, no.
Now, it is a very close fight. I cannot think of a film I would put between these two.
Yeah.
I honestly cannot. And that's like looking at,
yeah.
And I'm actually trying to, I don't even remember how we finished last year. All of a sudden, I can't fathom us making a movie, or making a podcast last year. I can't remember at all what we talked about, but I'm curious how either of these films would stack up against our top, or whatever our number one of last year was.
Our number one of last year, I believe, was Dead Poets Society.
I believe you are correct. Dead Poets Society for many reasons that have nothing to do with our love for
dinosaurs.
Amazing dinosaurs. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so our top three last year were Dead Poets Society, The Force Awakens, and Jaws.
Oh, wow. Really good. Jaws was huge for me growing up.
Jaws was huge for me as well. Yeah.
My favorite movie of all time, though, that ranks above every single movie, is Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. So
really,
we're not gonna like where we landed Scott Pilgrim then. We love Scott Pilgrim.
Yes.
Huge fans. It made it 24th on our list.
Oh, okay.
24th of 58.
No, it's just you're dead to me, but that's fine.
That seems
honestly,
really low.
That does seem really low. But looking at what beat it, like I'm surprised it lost to Civil War. I'm surprised it lost to Deathly Hallows Part 1.
But come on.
Fantastic Beasts.
Yeah, it shouldn't lose to any of those. What were we doing? So I remember in a wrap-up show, we had a conversation about Scott Pilgrim. I think that we just, I don't remember now.
I think, honestly, looking back
at it's better than Return of the Jedi.
I would move it all the way up to number 8. Maybe 8 or 9. So what that would put it behind is Infinity War, Holy Grail, A New Hope, Thor Ragnarok, Empire, Jaws, Force Awakens, Dead Poets Society.
I'm good with that. Let's amend it. Thank you, guys.
Well, no,
that was my ulterior motive.
The first year list is dead. We're not. There are no amendments to the first year list. We may have made mistakes. To err is human.
To err is human. That's about where I would put it.
Yeah.
Somebody just the other day said they were going to see Scott Pilgrim, and I cried.
Yeah. I watch that movie every year for my birthday because I love it so
We
much.
just watched so many great movies last year.
Yeah.
Some of them had a hard time stacking up, and some of them got misplaced because they were part of a series, or we had a particular guest that really pushed for it and made a convincing argument. And I don't know. I don't remember what happened with that one. I might have to go back and revisit that episode and see what we felt was sort of wrong about it.
I always felt bad because I never got to watch it in theaters until 2 years ago when there was a fan screening of it, and it was the best day of my entire life, probably. And yeah, it's a great movie. If anyone hasn't seen it, it's the best movie. I don't care what your list says.
No, I mean, I love that movie. I absolutely love that movie.
On a binary scale, we do binary here. It's a 1 or a 0.
Yeah.
It's a 1.
It's a
I mean,
1.
there's no doubt about it.
It's a 1.
Well, anyway, so there's some controversial tweet. There's some
That's
controversial
right.
opinions there. But yeah, we could go ahead and wrap this piece up.
Yeah.
How do we do that? Right. I list off a random amount of social media handles.
Ooh,
Make sure you shout out our composer and graphic designer.
So, Scott, where can people find you?
Hey, you can find me mostly the good stuff that I do is on YouTube. Just search for Nerdsync. All one word, Nerdsync. If you want to hear me just tweet about the dumbest things that will annoy you, it's also Nerdsync there, but the dumber tweets are my personal one, which is Scott Niswander, and that's Twitter and Instagram.
Beautiful. Love it. Well, Tyler can be found at AmeriCarlin on Instagram, Twitter. I can be found at Baconandeggsmedia on Instagram and at WowNow, but the O's are zeros on Twitter. Our graphics, as always, are by Vaishon Brandon at Graphite, and our music is by Andrew Scott Bell. He can be found at Andrew Scott Bell on all social medias and andrewscottbell.com. You can buy stuff from the link down below if you want to get merch. We have that. If you want to get hats, we still have some hats left. You can go to our Big Cartel, bigcartel.com/baconandeggsmedia. Or if you want to become a patron of Bacon and Eggs and join our Discord or check out any of the other awesome reward tiers we have, you can go to patreon.com/baconandeggs. And that'll get you there. 5 will get you 10. Mackey's back in town. Don't even know what that means, but that's okay. We're just rolling with it. This is the end of the episode. This is where I get to say whatever I want. Anyway, Scott, any final thoughts about The Dark Knight, life, or anything else?
No, not really. I mean, I have a new video coming out on YouTube very soon. If people want to hear about that or not, it's fine.
I'm sure they do. Go subscribe to Nerdsync if you're not already. I don't know why you wouldn't be, but if you're not already, it's forgivable. You can fix that right now. There'll be a link in the doobly-doo to go subscribe to Nerdsync and get all of Scott's videos. Get that bell on and get them all pushed right to your thing. As long as we're talking about YouTube, youtube.com/baconandeggsmedia. That's where you can find my vlogs and Tyler's vlogs. There'll be one out yesterday when you see this. Hopefully, listen to this. Anyway, as always, I've been Ethan Edgehill. He's been Tyler Carlin, and him over there has been Scott Niswander.
Got it right.
And until next time, arrivederci.
A year ago, all these cops and lawyers wouldn't dare cross any of you.